Okay, we had so much fun with the Robbins and Myers fan, I thought we'd take a look at this one. I believe I showed this to you in a previous video, but this is a 1947-48 GE 12-inch 3-speed Vortalex oscillating fan, and it also needs to be rewired. As you can see, this headwire is, well, it's in pretty bad shape, but fortunately this is just a 2-conductor headwire, so we can just use standard lamp cord to replace that. So let's get this thing apart and see what we can do. Here we are somewhat apart. Unfortunately, this blade is wanting to be a pain in the butt to get off, so that might be a lengthy process, but I've got the rest of this exposed. Unlike the Robbins and Myers fan that we just worked on that had a tapped winding on the motor, this particular fan just uses a single winding on the motor, and the way they change speeds is by means of this speed coil right here, which is really nothing more than a choke with multiple taps on it. So I really like that arrangement much better. It makes rewiring the motor a little bit easier. Okay, so now I'm going to get on with trying to get this blade off. Okay, people, this blade is going to take some serious effort to get off. Fortunately, I was able to remove this whole portion of the motor assembly by just simply removing the 4 screws and lifting the whole thing out. And that gives me access to the wires here that need to be replaced, which appear to run up inside the motor here, just like the Robbins and Myers fan, so we'll need to get this completely exposed in order to get to it. And as you can see, it looks like this thing has been out in the weather and has had some bugs living in it at some point in time. It's going to take some serious cleaning to get it back right, but unless the motor windings are shot, then we still should be able to save this thing. Okay, checking our motor winding continuity. I see we have, well, we'll call it 12 ohms, which I think is probably acceptable for this fan. And this is why you never trust this old wire. As you see, this is cloth covered on the outside, and to look at the outside insulation, you might think this wire is okay. But actually on the inside, what's happening is the inner insulation is flaking away. And even though the outer insulation may look okay, it's a different story under the skin. So that's why you want to replace this old headwire, or at least examine it very carefully when working on one of these old fans. And I said the blade was a pain in the butt to get off, or is being a pain in the butt to get off. And I don't look for this stator assembly to be any easier to get out of here. But it's got to be done, because I've got to get back here to where this head wire connects so I can attach a new wire. Okay, I'll have to admit I'm stumped at the moment. I don't know how I'm going to get this stator assembly out of here. In the old days, you just remove the 4 screws from the back of the motor and possibly tap on it a little bit and it'd fall out. But 60 years of rust, corrosion, father time, etc., etc., etc. have taken its toll, and no amount of tapping is doing any good. So if any of you fan collectors or restorers watching this video have any ideas that might help me get this apart without ruining it, I'd greatly appreciate it. So I think I'm going to sleep on this overnight, and once we figure out how to get this out of here, then we'll continue. Okay, finally got the blades off, and how I did that was I grabbed the rotor here and held it in place with one hand, and then I attempted to turn the blades with the other hand on the rotor shaft, and they were so tight I could still just barely turn them, so I would have never gotten these off had I not been able to separate this whole assembly from this. So to make them turn easier, I sprayed some contact cleaner spray into the set screw hole. As hard as it is to believe, removing the set screw was not a problem, surprisingly. And once I sprayed a few rounds of contact cleaner in the hole there and rotated the blades back and forth a few times, they eventually broke loose. So maybe I should spray some contact cleaner around the perimeter of this and let it soak down in there, and maybe the thing will come out easier. But like I said, if anybody has any tips on how to get this out of here without destroying anything, I'd love to hear from you. So with that said, I'll say thanks for watching, and more to come later.